What's up? Hey, hello everyone. Wow, so today we are back going to be talking about the challenge season 36 Double Agents episode 3. So, my name is Rachel.
I'm Alyssa, and this episode of the challenge was, it was an episode because they ended up doing a very physical challenge for their daily mission, and that didn't go so hot for some people. So, we're going to be talking quite a bit about that this episode.
Yeah, so we hope you all had a happy holidays. It's almost the new year. I saw on Reddit that there might not be an episode next week, so I guess we'll have to see, even though next Wednesday would be like the 30th. So they're just canceling it in preparation for the new year. So maybe next week, Alyssa and I will talk about like Survivor players we want to see on the challenge or something else if there is no the challenge episode 4 happening, which hopefully there is, but if there's not, we'll have a backup plan happening.
Yes, and I'm super excited to talk more about the Survivor Challenge crossover just because, as we've mentioned, 2 of the people on this season are former Survivor players. And I think that this episode kind of made me think of the differences between Survivor and the challenge. And so, someone who won Survivor might not necessarily do well on the challenge, and someone who sucked at Survivor might do well on the challenge. So I'm excited to talk more about that eventually.
Yeah, so we start this episode 3 with Kyle being mad about being blindsided at the end of episode 2. So last week we saw Fessy and Anisa throw in Kyle to go into the crater to battle against Joseph. So Kyle comes back, he's all pissed off. He says he trusts CT, Wes, and Devin more now. He's like flipping his whole allegiance. But I don't know, I was sort of confused about this, and we can talk about it. Like, I don't necessarily get it. Like, okay, I guess you're angry because they didn't give you a heads up about being thrown in, but also like you're going against someone who has never been on the challenge before. So like as a player who has gone to finals, who has won challenges, daily challenges, everything like that before, like you have the upper hand because you have more experience. Like Kyle, you got your gold skull against a rookie, someone who doesn't have that experience. So like I was just so sort of confused why he was so angry. Like, I guess I get that you were blindsided, but also it's better to be blindsided against someone like easy to beat versus if they threw you against CT or Wes.
Yeah, in general, it just seemed very weird to me because it's like, even if one of the double agents had told him, it still wouldn't have made much of a difference. Like, I don't get why he was so upset about it, in the sense that knowing that you're going in doesn't actually change that much because you don't know the challenge or anything ahead of time. So
yeah, and I guess, because of the numbers, maybe he's so pissed off that he was actually maybe not in the alliance, but also Kyle plays the middle. Like we saw this episode, he purposely didn't vote the way Wes wanted him to, or the way the Corey group wanted him to. Like he purposely threw his vote and burned his vote. So it's like, I don't know, Kyle plays the middle. So to be so angry that the people that you thought were on your side weren't on your side when you purposefully play the middle and you play the sneaky lying game, it just seems a little backwards, I guess. And I don't know, I feel like you do have to worry when the numbers dwindle, that you don't have a big alliance rooting for you or behind your back kind of thing. But I feel like it's so early now, and Kyle's strong. I feel like people might throw him in later to try to steal his skull. Like we saw this episode, people want to throw in Devin and keep Devin around to steal his skull later on when things start to dwindle down and the numbers start to get smaller. So I feel like maybe that would put a target on your back, but you have a gold skull. All you have to do now is protect it and win some daily challenges to not get thrown in again.
Yeah, I guess it's just, you can't, like you said, you can't be proud of the fact that you're playing the game as a snake and then expect everyone else to play a perfectly upfront game with you. It's just hypocritical. And
yeah,
it just seems like it's too early to be freaking out about this.
Yeah, 100%, especially because it's a partner season. I think good for Cam. We see Cam come in and be like, chill, chill, Kyle, stop it. Like we're connected now. You cannot be fighting with people. We see it later on when the other big fights come out, like the people that are partnered with people that have hot heads or are more likely to fight with other people, they are like, yo, partner, you need to chill. So good for Cam coming in there and like cooling everything down and breaking it up, because you don't really want a partner that's going to start a lot of drama right now or like get in a lot of fights or push people the wrong way, because then you're just going to have a bigger target on your back. So good for Cam.
Yeah, I think this episode we definitely started to see how the whole partnership thing starts to play into people's like strategy, because people who are with hotheads definitely had a hard episode this episode. But then also I think we saw how like partners with complementary skills can be really good for each other. Like I think Big T and CT being together has been good for both of them. So
yeah. So at the beginning also we see Fessy in the room with Kyle and a bunch of other people. He tells everyone that when the double agents go to the chamber room for deliberation, that it's not a secret vote and they get to see who voted for the compromised agents. And I was like, FML, come on. It lasted 3 episodes only. Last week, Alyssa and I were so proud and so happy that it was kept a secret and nobody knew that twist of like, it's not really a secret vote. People do learn who votes for who. And I don't know. I just think like Fessy telling everyone, and now basically probably the whole house knows, because you got like all the blabbermouths in that room, and it wasn't even your alliance members that you were telling, but like you told Kyle and like Wes and those kind of people. I don't know. I mean, I guess I can see you said that to save your butt with Kyle, because you can say, yeah, Kyle, we voted you in because you lied about your vote. But I feel like telling everyone in the house this twist, you just showed your cards.
Yeah, it was kind of dumb. Like, it's also one of those things where it's like it helped them this one time, but it's not going to help them again in the future as much as having the leverage of that information might have. So
yeah. It's just, I don't know. I feel like it's going to make the votes really complicated, where people are going to throw their votes, or like, I guess you can't really lie about your votes anymore, but I feel like we're going to see more people trying to throw your vote or like hide their vote or something. I don't know. It's just like a lot to follow. It's going to get really confusing really fast.
Yeah. I'm not sure if people will put as much strategy into it as maybe we are anticipating, but I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out, especially like next week.
Yeah, I agree. I guess we didn't really see too much of like the voting, if it causes problems for the people this week. But yeah, hopefully maybe in the future we'll see some more strategy around the votes, because I think that could be interesting there.
Yeah, I think it could be interesting, but I'm not sure it'll happen. So
yeah,
I also wonder if maybe people will like trade votes where like people in opposite alliances will be like, hey, I need you to vote for this person for me so that my alliance doesn't get pissed off at me. I'll vote for this person for you. And so I think that would be interesting, because it would maybe have to involve some cross alliance coordination if you wanted to vote out someone within your alliance but didn't want other people in your alliance to know that. So it'll be spicy.
And even like messing up plans, like Kyle throwing his vote to like not get any heat, or like Wes thought that he had the numbers this time, but it turns out he didn't. So it could be interesting if it does play a factor, but also with everything in the voting, I feel like I'm already confused just like talking about it. So them actually playing it is probably way more confusing, trying to figure out numbers and stuff.
Yeah. So hopefully next week, if people do change their votes because of knowing that people can see the votes, it'll be explained pretty well. Because I feel like there was some things this episode where like drama started, and I was like, wait, why is there drama? I'm confused. So
yeah, so before we see the daily challenge, you alluded to it, we see the big CT team. They come together. It was like sort of weird editing in this segment. Like they had the like animated hawk and like Big T's face on the hawk eyes. It was like sort of weird, but sort of funny. So like oh my God, I'm going to keep saying Big CT. So Big T's nickname is Hawk, and then CT's name is Funny Bunny.
I love that so much, especially when he was doing his confessional and he was like, I suppose I am Bunny Bunny. It was just funny.
But then I'm also like, don't hawks eat like rabbits or bunnies or like those kind of small animals? So they're basically saying like Big T eats CT.
Yeah, I guess so.
So yeah, I think their partnership is super cute.
Yeah. So I'm excited to see where that partnership goes because I think it could be a powerhouse.
Yeah. So we go into the daily challenge. It's called Roadkill. Like I think Josh or someone said, it's a headbanger on a semi truck. Honestly, now we know where all their budget is going to. It's like the pyrotechnics, all the flames, all of the truck having to keep going back and forth, but they aren't spending any money on like safety equipment, it seems. I feel like this kind of physical challenge, I'm a fan of physical challenges, not when people get hurt, but I feel like I do like watching physical challenges. And it reminds me of those survivor challenges where like you're on a platform and you have to like push someone off into the mud or into the water or like do that kind of wrestling. So I did like this challenge, but I think with the safety aspects, there are some problems with this challenge.
Yeah, there's definitely some problems in this challenge. 2 people got seriously injured and had to leave to go to the hospital. So like that's a yikes. And I guess in general, even the people who weren't seriously injured, I feel like were probably pretty afraid of being injured because it's like raining. They're fighting on top of a semi truck without harnesses and the nets that are on the side of the truck to like catch them if they fall. Rachel and I had a whole discussion about this before we started like filming, but I feel like anytime you have a net like that that's like really loose and baggy, it seems really, really easy to just fall wrong and break something. Because I feel like we've seen people on like different TV shows fall into similar nets, and it's like if you have to be instructed on the way to properly fall in order to be able to be safe, like that's not good. It it just seems like they took the like coolness of the challenge and didn't really think about how safe it would be for the people participating.
Yeah, especially because nets like that, you do have to fall on them a certain way to be safe, like on your back kind of, but like on your butt and like cross your arms. Like you cannot break your fall by like putting your wrist down or your arm down or anything like that. And like you obviously can't fall in the correct way when you're like being pushed or wrestled off of the truck. So it does seem a little bit counterintuitive, like you're saying, because when you're being like flailed off the truck, you're not going to be like, my body orientation, let me like go 360, land on my back, cross my arms. Like don't break your fall with your hands or wrists. Like it's just
Especially
not going to work.
a lot of people were like falling on top of each other.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like if I'm falling on top of you, of course I'm going to put my arms out so that I don't like slam my head into your head. So it just was not a good time. There was one person who dislocated their shoulder. I think that was Nicole.
Yeah.
And then Liv.
Yeah.
Whew, I'm still working on everybody's names. Liv hurt her arm in some way, but I guess she was fine. I don't know. It was
good
kind of
enough to go
unclear what
back.
happened
Yeah.
to her. Yeah.
So I think nets are just like really freaky. Even on Survivor, when you have to like run on or like across nets, or even the one season where the girl hurt herself in the first episode jumping onto the net. Like I just want to stay away from nets at all costs. I feel like for safety measures, maybe they should have had a harness, and like if you were pushed off, there were no nets and then you just like fell, and then the harness will catch you, then you're just hanging off the side of the semi truck rather than falling into a baggy looking scary net. Or even I feel like the hardness of the surface they were fighting on, it didn't look like there were any paddings or anything, and it was like wet because it was raining and sweaty and stuff. So it just looked like maybe they could have had a padded roof on top of their semi truck or something. I don't know. It just seemed like when it was a hard surface and you're falling and flailing into weird looking nets, it just a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, it is not a good idea. And I don't know. Why did they think this was a good idea?
It was pretty cool though, you can't lie. When the semi truck came in and TJ hopped out, I was like, yo, this is pretty cool to watch.
Okay,
So,
I
yeah.
was scared because I didn't realize they would have nets. And when TJ was like, you might actually be Roadkill, I was like, wait, are they actually gonna like let them fall to the ground and potentially be run over by a semi?
Maybe next time. So, with this challenge, the fastest time wins of who can knock the other person off the quickest. It was randomly selected matchups, which I liked because everyone has to participate. You can't just sit out. You can't choose like a weaker team to go against, and everyone has to play the game and everyone has to show their strengths or weaknesses. So I really liked how it was random and everyone had to participate.
Yeah, I thought that was cool too. And I wish that I don't think we saw every matchup in the episode, which I thought was lame. But they showed us like the most important matchups, like the ones of the like important challenge players or the people who won. So that was cool, I guess. But it would have been cool to see more people.
I think we might have seen everyone, but some of the people's were like shorter or it was montaged over like music because we saw 14 teams go.
Oh, maybe
So
I didn't pay attention during the montage.
yeah, some of them went by really quick. The like longer ones, like Devin and Nicole versus Cam and Kyle, that's where Nicole gets injured, which was interesting because we saw Nicole in the premiere episode have a sling on her arm, and so a lot of people were commenting like, oh, was that like an editing error? Like, does Nicole get hurt in the future? Like, why does she have a sling in episode 1 when she wasn't hurt in episode 1 and she wasn't wearing a sling in any other scenes? So it seems like they took a confessional from like episode 3 here and put it into episode 1 if you go back and rewatch the premiere. So a lot of people were eyeing that and like, oh, that's not good for the edit kind of thing. And Easter egg, it does show that Nicole is medically evacuated this time after showing that she was in a sling in episode 1.
Yeah, I felt bad for Nicole because it sucks when you're like medically eliminated from like a reality TV show, but especially because like there are some other shows where I feel like having a dislocated shoulder wouldn't medically disqualify you. Like Survivor, I feel like people had worse things happen than a dislocated shoulder and are still able to compete.
Like
So it
Missy.
just yeah. So it just sucks that like the challenge is so physical because then if you are injured, you're kind of out for the count.
Yeah, I felt really bad for Nicole because she's a strong competitor, a good competitor, and I like you, I feel like it is always really crappy to see people go for things that are out of their control, like a medical evacuation or like something like that. I think, if you do get into a physical fight or you say stuff that's like racist, obviously you should get kicked out, but stuff like this that's out of Nicole's control and like she didn't ask to be injured or med-evac. It's just sort of sucky that it's cut short like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so another fight we saw was Natalie and Wes versus Nani and Josh. I was like, Josh versus Wes is probably like Josh's dream after last season where we saw Josh just like believes that he has a rivalry with Wes for some reason and they're like having some kind of rivalry when it's like a one-sided thing. That was sort of weird and good for Nani because I feel like people underestimate Nani a lot, but I felt like she held her own with Natalie even though like Natalie is bigger than her and taller than her. So I thought that was a cool thing to see Nani actually like fight and hold her own against Natalie. And I feel like this is the start when Josh and Wes are fighting about whose foot was the last on the platform of the downfall and like Josh just being Josh.
Yeah, I think what's interesting about Natalie versus Nani is that like Natalie, I think, knows how to wrestle and Nani doesn't. And so Natalie was talking about like all the wrestling moves she was trying to do and couldn't do. And I'm like, babe, you can't like try wrestling moves on someone who doesn't know how to wrestle. Just like yeet her off. You could literally just like pick her up and throw her probably. So the fact that Natalie was like trying to do legit wrestling moves, I feel like is the reason like Nani was doing so well.
Yeah, and so another notable fight was Tori and Corey versus Liv and Michi. This is where Liv gets hurt, and then Tori has confessionals sort of saying like, oh, sucks that she got hurt, but also I like want to hurt people, which I feel like that's sort of a bad look, especially because like someone else got med-evac'd earlier.
Yeah, it is a bad look, so yikes.
Yeah, so Liv isn't hurt enough to like actually get sent home, like chip on her shoulder or something, but she's like still wearing a little bit of a cast thing, so hopefully she's good to continue to compete. Like they said that they had an x-ray and like the results were coming back, but I guess she was still there, so the results came back positive for her. So yeah, hopefully, the injury doesn't like take her out of other competitions, because it would sort of suck that like you're not injured enough to be taken out of the game, but you're also like scared to like hurt yourself more that you can't compete to your fullest potential.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those things also where like the chip in her bone or whatever, I would still be freaked out that the doctors had like misdiagnosed me and I was about to like break my arm or whatever, because I feel like a lot of that is also a mental block.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting to see if she continues to be a really physical competitor or she kind of like dials back.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like, like that pain, like she was describing it, like it went up through her hand and wrist and went up to your shoulder. I feel like that's got to be like a scary experience to go through. And like, I would maybe want to sort of dial it back because I would be afraid of like having that experience again or like being in so much shock. Like you don't know what's wrong, but you just feel pain everywhere. It's got to be like really scary.
Yeah, breaking a bone is not fun. So,
oh my gosh. I remember in like 7th grade science class, this has like scarred me with like, we watch bone breaking videos and like slow-mo of like people breaking their arm. And then you see the bone flying out. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, it was so disgusting.
Wow. That like never happened to me. I feel like wow.
Maybe we're in different science teacher classes.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about that later. Oh my goodness. I just feel like it's just crazy, especially because Liv, I feel like, was not originally one of the more competitive, like, physical players in the first place. So it's like, does it really matter if she dials it back? So
yeah, I guess we haven't really seen too much from any of the rookies as like Alyssa still learning these people's names. It seems like a lot of the people, it's like the vets are on the screen all of the time and the rookies don't get too much screen time unless they're like being thrown into elimination. It seems like Liv only got screen time this time because of her injury. Even Nicole hasn't really gotten much screen time and she's been on the challenge before. Jay and Teresa, I'm like, I have not seen much from them really. So it's sort of sucky that a lot of the screen time is being taken up by like the vets and like the fights that are happening. But with this, we also see CT and Big T versus Fessy and Anisa. I thought this would be interesting, especially CT versus Fessy. That would have been like a really cool like hall brawl matchup or pole wrestle or something, but then they just timed out.
Yeah, I guess it's like, it's cool that they were so evenly matched that they timed out and it wasn't just like one person like dominating, especially because it seemed like they had a lot of time. Like, I think in one of the clips, TJ yelled 10 minutes left. And I was like, are they wrestling for 10 minutes straight? Because that seems like a lot.
That seems like too much time. I'm like, what, 5 minutes max? Maybe 3 minutes would be a lot. That's tiring to be like physically exerting yourself that much.
Yeah, I just feel like it's wild and crazy and not in a good way. And maybe he meant like 10 seconds left. Maybe the subtitle was wrong, but yeah, it was wild.
So the winners of this challenge are Casey and Leroy. So we have some new winners up there and not just Fessy and Anisa this entire season. So that will be interesting, but I feel like we didn't get too much from them. But we go back to the house and we see multiple fights break out. I feel like this was like 20 minutes of the 1 hour long episode. And I was like, SMH. We see CT and Casey sort of like, it wasn't really even like a real fight. It seemed like they were more like play fight, like joking with each other, like, haha, like brother, sister kind of thing. But then Josh has to get involved. And I'm like, of course it would be Josh who like inserts himself into situations where he's not even like a part of the fight, which wasn't really even like a fight. Like, sure, their voices were raised, but it wasn't like they were going to punch each other or anything. And I was like, what is the point? I was just so angry.
Yeah, it just seemed like there was a lot of fights this episode, and I didn't really understand where most of them were coming from. So
I feel like they had to show the CT and Casey play fight in order to lead up to the Josh and Devin fight, which then leads to Devin being thrown into the elimination. So I guess, storyline wise, that makes sense because you can't just have the Josh and Devin fight without the Casey CT like premonition foreshadowing. Otherwise, like the Devin and Josh fight would literally make no sense why they were so heated and like fighting with each other. But like, I don't know, they just inserted themselves into the situation. The Devin Josh thing was a little bit entertaining because I feel like people sort of just like play with Josh and they like to push his buttons because he's so easily like agitated and he gets mad so easily, and like people know how to keep saying things to like piss him off. But like Devin just saying Big Brother sucks, like a lot of Big Brother fans think that the show is sort of sucky now, especially after recent seasons. Like, I don't know, Josh just got so overly mad about that comment when so many people like say it.
Yeah, it's just it's so weird that he got so heated over something that wasn't even that personal. Like, it's not even like he was like, oh, Josh sucks.
Like, or like, yeah.
Like, I feel like if someone was like, Survivor sucks, Natalie and Jay would be like a little annoyed, but they wouldn't go like feral. It was just very strange.
Yeah, it wasn't, I don't know, it's like not like a personal attack or like Big Brother winners suck and it was pointed at like Casey and Josh together, like we hate Big Brother winners, they all suck kind of thing. But like the show in general, I don't know, maybe like after you win a reality TV show, then like if someone says that it sucks, like then you get really offended by it. But yeah, it wasn't like a personal thing or anything, it was like a comment. And then it just got blown out of proportion. It was sort of funny, the scene, even though I was annoyed while watching because I was like, this fight literally has no point. But like they put the Whitney Houston song So Emotional over Josh like screaming. And I was like, dang, even the editors are like poking fun at Josh. That sucks.
Yeah, I was watching it and texting Rachel and I was like, what is happening? Because it just felt so weird. So
yeah.
It was just like, it wasn't fun to watch either because I was kind of just like, what?
I feel like I wouldn't watch it again. I feel like I would fast forward through that part of the episode. Josh punched the wall at the end of it, which I was like, dang, that's really heated for like this fight that started because of a pizza oven thing, and like everyone else was laughing at them, like trying to hold back laughter. They found it amusing, it looked like, the people in the background watching Josh and Devin fight, and like 3 security people had to come out and like try to hold everyone back. And I don't know, I just think the best line was like Devin saying like, what's 8 times 9? And then like Josh is like, I'm gonna beat your ass. And I'm like, what the heck, what is even happening?
Yeah, it was just very kind of confusing, especially because I feel like I didn't really understand the connection between the pizza and this, and then Josh being so fired up at the like Big Brother sucks. It was just like, was there nothing else interesting happening in this house?
I was like, yeah, if it's like already 30 minutes into the episode, we haven't even gotten to the vote or deliberation yet. Who even goes into the vote now? Which I guess I can see like Devin blowing up like that, and Devin also losing his partner Nicole makes him a good target, so he's probably going to get voted in. But I don't know, that storyline is weird. Maybe like Devin versus Josh comes back in the future, so it's relevant to put in here. But I feel like they could have just had more people be like, yeah, Devin lost his partner, he's friends with Wes, he doesn't have any alliance members, let's vote him in, rather than like, Devin fought with Josh, let's vote him in.
I guess maybe that would be good if it like actually comes back in the future. It seems like kind of like a playground feud where you're just like, guys, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, it literally wasn't a big deal. Like, there were like no personal jabs or anything that you need to like defend your honor. It was like such a random sequence of events. So we go into deliberation. Nani, I feel like she probably regrets being partnered with Josh now because like we were saying earlier, people that get into fights, maybe it makes you a bigger target, but also Josh does have like a lot of his big brother friends in the house that could protect him if he's still on like the same page with all of them. And so I don't know, deliberation, it was just more fighting, it felt like, between like Wes and Devin and Josh, and it was hard to tell what was happening, but like I guess they were pointing us in the direction that Devin was going in.
Yeah, it seems like we definitely were supposed to believe that Devin was going in. And I guess maybe this is just watching too much Survivor. But I feel like whenever someone is like, "Oh, I'm definitely going in," I'm like, "Oh, they're safe now," because it's like anytime when someone's like, "Oh, this is definitely going to happen," it ends up not happening. So
I guess opposite for the challenge, because whenever someone says like, "Oh yeah, Devin, I'm definitely going in," but I was also like, why would they vote Devin in? Because he just got in a fight with Josh, and because he's solo now, which I wish we had a confessional of people saying like, yeah, we're voting Devin in now because he doesn't have a partner.
yeah, that would have been cool because it's like at least that's a reason. I wish that they also would have explicitly said beforehand that, like, yes, Devin is still eligible. Because I feel like I would have maybe been like, oh, I'm not sure if I can vote Devin, because if you vote in Devin and it's a women's elimination week, then no one gets eliminated.
I agree. I wrote that in my notes too. Like, oh, I guess it's like a guy's elimination because nobody ever said that Devin couldn't be voted in, or maybe it just didn't make the episode. So it's like up to viewer interpretation. Like, they didn't think it was important enough to say, like, yeah, Devin's still eligible. You can still vote him in because it's a guy's elimination. But also, like, we see later in the double agent deliberation, we see Devin get voted in. So then, they think Casey and Leroy think that it's a boys elimination, because if Devin and Nicole got voted in but Nicole's gone, like, you can't have a women's elimination. So maybe the editors wanted us to deduce it for our own, but I feel like it does make it more tricky on the people voting the people in, because you're like, oh, if it is a women's elimination, does the other girl voted in go home automatically? But like we were saying last week, Alyssa, I think it does make sense to do female, male, female, like flip like that. Otherwise, like we were saying last week, then the guy is always safe for a week. So at least this week, I guess everyone has a partner again. But like, if there were an odd number of people, then like the girl would be safe.
Yeah. So it was just kind of messy, and I wish that they would be more explicit about these things, just because I think sometimes it's fun if you don't know all the rules, but sometimes it's just kind of annoying. So
yeah, so in the double agent deliberation, we see Devin gets voted in, and then, you know, it makes sense, I guess, to vote Devin in because he is a solo dude and he got in the fight with Josh, who has the big brother people. But I don't know. I feel like in this double agent elimination, we literally got no information. We literally see Casey and Leroy just like sit there, and then they say they can't trust each other, and then they like say the things that we as viewers already like have deduced, and they like didn't even talk about who they wanted to send in. So I was like, they literally did nothing in there, or like they didn't show us any of the actual strategy talk between Casey and Leroy, which I would have wanted to see.
yeah, I was kind of confused why Casey and Leroy think they can't trust each other. Like, I feel like that kind of came out of the blue because we haven't really seen a lot of them so far this season. And so, like, there are some, like, partners who they said, like, oh, I don't trust him because he keeps doing stuff I don't want him to do or whatever. So, I don't know. It just... It's so confusing because I get that there's a lot more people, and so, like, naturally, some people aren't going to come up as much. But, like, I would have rather had 5 minutes less of Josh yelling and, like, maybe 5 more minutes of, like, figuring out where the rest of the teams were.
Or
So,
yeah, like get rid of some of the fight, and so we can learn about who's actually aligned with each other, because even right now we're like, oh, Big Brother alliance, like Corey and Nelson aligned with the Big Brother people, but I feel like I would have presumed that like Casey and Leroy were cool with, like, at least Leroy and Cam were cool with the Big Brother people because they were both or are both paired with Big Brother people, with Casey and Cam and Josh being paired together last week, but not being paired together anymore. But seeing that Casey and Leroy don't actually trust each other, even though like they purposefully paired up to like split Cam and Leroy up so that they had more like players in the house, so that they like had more connections. It just seems a little bit weird that we don't see that they don't trust each other, or like, why don't they trust each other? Is there a rift between the alliances, or like, you know, where are all of the people? Where are the numbers? We only know like half of the people in the house and where they lie, really.
Yeah, and like maybe that's because those people aren't actually going to end up being that important, and they do want us to focus on the more important people. But it's also like, I feel like the challenge kind of assumes more that you've seen previous episodes, or not previous episodes, previous seasons of the challenge, and so you know who all these people are. And like, as someone this is the first season of the challenge I'm like seriously watching, I think it's really difficult because I'm like expected to know that like Devin and Josh have a feud or whatever. And I'm like, how am I supposed to know this when you won't tell me?
Go watch all of the 35 other seasons, Alyssa, and buy CBS All Access. That's what they're trying to get you to do.
No.
So we go into the crater and they vote Wes and Natalie in, which I thought was smart because you have Wes and Devin go against each other. We saw that Wes and Devin are aligned together, or they're at least friends. So either way, whoever wins, you send one of the pair home. And I felt like that was smart because it doesn't really make sense to like, you know, if you're trying to get Wes's numbers to dwindle, then like, why would you throw him in against someone that he wasn't friends with? Like, you want to dwindle that side of the house. So like throw them in together so one of them has to go home. I feel like a lot of people on the internet are like bashing Leroy for not going in, but I feel like personally, I don't know. I think it was okay that he didn't go in versus Fessy last week. I think Fessy should have went in, but with this, you don't really know, I guess, if Leroy could have beaten Devin. Maybe Leroy has the upper hand because he's taller kind of thing and maybe stronger. But like Devin beat Wes, even though when we talk about that, I do have some things to say about that. But I think Fessy in a headbanger against Joseph, I think Fessy wins. In this kind of like sort of physical, like strength endurance challenge, I don't think that you can say Leroy wins it 100% of the time like Fessy would win a physical elimination challenge 100% of the time. So I think it is smarter to try to dwindle Wes's side of the house more now. And then, like they were saying, take Devin's red skull later if they think Devin is weaker.
Yeah, I just think it's one of those things where because none of the double agents have put themselves in yet, they're kind of like making themselves seem like cowards because it's like no one's willing to actually do their own dirty work. So
yeah, maybe people are scared from last season of like CT going in against Jay and then CT going home, and people don't want to risk it so early. But I think similar to like what we said last week with Fessy not going in, I also think it's sort of a reason of people wanting to stay around on the TV show longer so they get more airtime and they get more followers.
Yeah, which is kind of dumb because I feel like I kind of lose my respect for people who are like kind of cowardly and only play to get more airtime. So
yeah, which I think that was more Fessy. I think it's okay more so that Leroy didn't go in. I think it makes more sense to vote in Wes versus Devin, and then at least someone strong goes home. If Devin beats Wes, you get rid of Wes, which was like your plan all along. If Wes beats Devin, like you still got a strong competitor out, and Wes had to go against his friend and get his friend voted out kind of thing. I just felt like when Wes, he was just so angry, I guess. He seemed very peeved off that he got voted in. He was like, I was blindsided by all of my friends and they all keep on voting me in. And it just seemed like he wasn't in the right mindset. But also I was sort of confused because like the challenge is all about like voting people in. Like you're going to have to go in one time or another to get your skull in order to qualify for the final now. It just seemed like Wes was maybe banking too much on the fact that like, oh, him and Leroy go back X number of years. They've been on X number of challenges together. But even then, I feel like Leroy was always like friends with Bananas and not Wes. So I don't really see where like Wes is like, Leroy and I are best friends. He would never vote me in. It's such a betrayal. Like when I feel like they aren't that close in the challenge.
I feel like it's one of those things where they're not that close in the challenge, but there's still like a lot of other people that could have gone ahead of Wes who like probably have even less connection with Leroy. So yeah. I kind of get it, but also not really.
Yeah, I guess like he maybe wanted like, oh, vote in a rookie, vote in someone you don't know. Like even if we aren't friends in real life or we're not friends at the challenge, like vote in someone you just met a week ago kind of thing. And so then he was like butthurt about it. But like this challenge, it's like a physical strength endurance challenge. They're attached to each other via ropes, run around some poles, and then you have to hit your buzzer at the end. But like the ropes are only a certain length. So then you sort of have to pull your opponent to get to your buzzer. And I feel like Devin wins this challenge, but also, I don't know. I feel like Wes in all of the confessionals in the challenge, but right before they did that challenge, during the challenge, and after the challenge, after he loses, Wes just continually is saying like, oh, I want Devin to win for Devin's family. Like, I feel so bad for Devin. Like, I feel so sad that Leroy put me in. Like, I'm not in the right mindset. Like, how could he betray me like that? It sort of seemed like Wes wasn't in the right mindset to compete. And so he didn't give it his 110% like effort in the challenge that like he wants to save face and save Grace and like doesn't want to look like a loser. And then that's why he keeps on saying he let his friend win.
I don't know. I think it's one of those things where it is really hard because if you're Wes, you're put in twice in 3 weeks. You're going against someone who you genuinely like and you didn't expect to be there in the first place. So like, I do kind of understand his whole like, it's hard to be hype thing because I feel like it would be hard to be hype. And I think we see that in like other reality TV shows where there's direct competition where it's like, I don't want you to lose, but I want to win, and that's hard. So
I agree. I can see that also, like not having your head in the game because of like getting your friend out and like you want your friend to succeed but you're taking that like chance away from your friend and like the money and everything. And like Wes doesn't need the money, as we heard last week that he's like super rich. So like maybe that's another factor. Like Devin had a confessional this episode saying that he wants to help his mom out. So maybe that's weighing on Wes. It does sort of seem like Wes didn't give it his all this season, like I guess this challenge episode, and it seems like Wes has been down in the dumps ever since him and Natalie got thrown in episode 1. It seems like he hasn't been able to have his footing, had his big alliance, and he sort of I don't know, like not give up in this challenge, but it seems like he didn't try super hard.
He doesn't know how to play as the underdog, I feel like, because he's always been like big man on campus. And so going in first, having so many people against him, seemingly for very little reason, I feel like, because I get that like Wes is a challenge vet, but there's like a lot of other challenge vets who I feel like also are big threats. And I don't understand why they are not more like.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like he doesn't play well as the underdog and has a lot of power a lot of time, or like even last season, you know, all of the new Big Brother players were like all on his side, eating out of the palm of his hand kind of thing, wasn't really targeted. And so coming into a season where you're used to being big man on campus, it's got to be hard when you get thrown in back to back and like everyone doesn't want to work with you and like your friends vote you in kind of thing. Like that's got to be tough. And I feel like I don't know. I was thinking something, but now I forget it. I think like with Wes, okay, you're saying the challenge champion thing. I think with Wes, he has such a big target as a challenge vet and as a challenge champion is because I feel like at least, like, you know, CT also has a big target and he's a challenge champ and a challenge vet, but I feel like CT can change his like personality and change his gameplay more than Wes can, in the fact that like CT was thrown in the week 1 also with Ashley, but CT now has like laid back. He's not like causing any drama. He's sort of playing the middle like he usually does, and he can sort of fade into the background, versus I feel like Wes always is like in the forefront of things, that he doesn't really know how to change his personality in a way to like fall back, let things just happen. Don't try to like get in other people's business. Even last week when we saw Wes like offering to be the janitor of the alliance, but then he like in the next sentence is like, oh yeah, I can also be the CEO kind of thing. It seems like he is a very proactive player that doesn't know just how to like sit back and do nothing, which is, that's, you know, totally fine. That's part of your personality. But I feel like CT gets rid of that sort of like, I guess, like people wanting to target him because he is able to sit back, and he sort of plays up the like, dad bod, I'm fat now, like I can't do anything, I'm old now, versus Wes doesn't really play that up as much.
Yeah, and I think that part of that is also like CT has partners who have played on the challenge before, and Wes has Natalie, and I feel like Natalie keeps asking Wes for advice when it's like, really, Wes needs someone to tell him to like chill out, back off. You need to be seen as less of a threat. So
yeah, and I think like with Ashley going, that's a target. And I like Darrell is a 4-time challenge champ, but he hasn't been back since Dirty 30. So it's like Wes was on their last season, CT was on their last season, but he went out early against Jay, and like he has that whole dad bod thing going on, but he has lost a lot of weight this season. So like he did go and exercise and like get back in shape for this season. But I feel like his target is going to continue to be big because Wes keeps coming back in back to back seasons. I feel like maybe if he took a break, then he can come back and have less of a target on his back, sort of like Darrell taking a break and coming back.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I think it's hard because with the challenge, it's kind of like expected that vets come back multiple times. So I guess it's different from like if he was the only returning vet. I don't know. It's just very strange.
Yeah, I guess you just need more winners to come back. You can't have all of the vets be people that never won, because then obviously your target is going to be bigger because you've won the challenge before and everyone wants that coveted spot. So I think from the start, you know, with only 4 winners this season, he's sort of put in a tough position. There is no bananas or other people that have bigger targets than him. So like Wes was sort of put against the wall since the start, and it seems like he does do a lot of pre-gaming where he like calls literally everyone on the season beforehand, and maybe that bit him in the butt this season. But yeah, Wes goes home.
Yeah, I felt bad for Wes, but like I guess it is what it is.
Yeah, you know, some of the drama goes because I feel like Wes is entertaining on TV. He does bring some drama, but I feel like it is nice to also let like people that have never won the challenge before, their rookie season this season, to get some airtime, because I feel like Wes is someone that takes up a lot of airtime.
Yeah, but like there are other people that I feel like take up more airtime who also need to go before we start seeing any of the rookies. Because I feel like now that Wes is gone, it's just like we're gonna see more CT, we're gonna see more Josh, and it's like, okay, that's boring.
Yeah, so we see Devin win and they get to pick new partners. Devin picks Tori, which I thought that was like a weird choice because in the deliberation, Devin and Tori are sort of fighting and they have beef from their other TV shows that they did together. And so that was sort of weird because Tori, I guess because she was partnered with Corey, was in the bigger alliance, but Tori alone, I'm not sure if she's in the big alliance. So I'm not sure why you're picking someone who isn't in that Big Brother Central alliance that is seeming to run the house, is like the Big Brother alliance, because they would have the numbers. And I don't know why would you pick someone that you have like problems or beef with? I feel like maybe Devin should have picked like Cam or someone, so then Leroy wouldn't vote them in and then you would have more people on your side.
Yeah, I feel like he definitely should have been smarter with that, but too late now.
Yeah, and so then Corey and Natalie are now partnered together. I think, Natalie just keeps upgrading. I think Natalie and Corey, that's a powerhouse duo. They're both super strong. And now that Wes is gone, Wes was disliked by a lot of people. Maybe Corey has a target on his back because Corey and Tori were like the other people that were maybe going to be voted in versus Devin at the deliberation. But it seemed like a lot of the dislike for Corey was being driven by Wes because Wes couldn't believe that Corey flipped on him.
Yeah, I guess I'm still working on understanding the politics behind everything because I still can't even remember people's names. Like, I was shocked that there was someone named Corey on this season. So, yeah, I do wonder. I do think that it's not a good look if you are seen to be flipping on someone who you're supposed to be aligned with, even if that person is Wes. Because it's like, oh, if you did it to someone else, you'll be willing to do it to me. So,
yeah, especially since it's so early. So I guess we'll have to see how this plays out next week or in 2 weeks if there is no episode next week. I really hope there is an episode. I want to know what happens. This is why, like, it sucks to watch these like weekly TV shows. Waiting a week is so hard.
Yeah, I feel like it's interesting though, because then it kind of keeps your attention more than when we were like binging.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this was our recap and review of The Challenge Season 36, Double Agents Episode 3. Definitely let us know in the comments what you thought of this episode, the big fights that were happening. What did you think of the strategy that we were talking about? Did you think putting in Wes and Devin was a smart move? Did Wes give up in the challenge? Definitely let us know your thoughts. And so if there is no episode next week, we'll be back with a different kind of video next week. And so we hope that you all have a happy holidays and a happy new year if we don't see you before 2021.
Yeah, and we'll see you guys soon. Bye.